Please do.
Hello, Synchronauts, and welcome to another Elysian Roundtable session with Mike Bais from Circle of Avalon. My name is Aida from Mexxicamelot. And, well, how are you, Mike, today?
Yeah, I'm doing very well, thank you. Yeah, I'm ready for a new session.
Yeah.
And to expand upon what we already did.
Yes, it's really interesting how there is so much to talk about in terms of Kabbalah. So I just want to remind people who are seeing us or listening to us about your books, which is actually what prompted these conversations. So here I have a Kabbalistic view on science. I have it in plastic because it's so pretty and I don't want it to get I want it to be kept in good condition. So this one is all in plastic. So this is the first book, and then you just recently wrote the second part.
Exactly.
I haven't had a chance to put the plastic on it yet, but
no,
so
everyone should do that.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's like if you touch this, it's so soft, It's a really, really beautiful book, both of them. And so we are using some of the topics that you discuss on both books here on our Elysian roundtables, but we will also be talking about the Arthurian, all the Arthurian myths, and we will be talking eventually also about the ASA, uh, which is also something that you work with. And so I'm very happy to have you here. And so I don't know, are you ready for today's question?
Yeah, just shoot. We'll see where we end.
Yes, this is very interesting. There is so much to discover about Kabbalah, and I also want to remind people who are seeing us or listening to us that you can also bring your questions to Mike through Mexxicamelot. I will leave the details here in the comments in the video so that you can contact us, and then we can also integrate your questions for Mike. So today we're going to begin with a very, very interesting question, which is about um, word that many people might not know about, which is Tzimtzun. So, could you please tell us a bit about the Tzimtzun, what it is in terms of Kabbalah, but also because in your books you talk about quantum physics, how can it be understood from a quantum physics perspective?
Yeah, it's really something. I mean, the question alone is something, and the answer probably as well. So we have to really elaborate on it. And I think we have to separate the two topics first. So first we have to see how we can get some understanding of what it means in Kabbalistic terms, and to all the listeners, to all our friends, to see if they can have some understanding through my explanation first. So the diagram of the tree of life, one of them is behind me. This is a quite large one, so that's a bit better to see for the viewers. It's very colorful as well, and I hope that everyone can see that from the top downwards there's this yellow line which is following certain paths. Maybe here it is more clear, and it goes downwards in the
like a zigzag.
The zigzag, exactly. So that is basically what Tzimtzun means from the Hebrew. It means lightning flash. But where does it really come from? What the Kabbalist says is that it is the expression or the extension of the will of God. Now, there we have already another problem, because what is God in Kabbalistic terms?
Good point.
This is an existential problem, of course, and this is a philosophical, religious, dogmatic problem, because we have so many ideas about it. But what Kabbalah says is, if we talk about God, we talk about the absolute. It means that which is beyond existence. So if you can imagine something, it's definitely not God. You see, it cannot be defined, cannot be described, because God is absolute nothing. That's what's being said in Kabbalah, Ayin, and absolute all, Ayin Sof. And God is also the ultimate light, or the limitless light. absolute light. Now, these are abstractions that our mind cannot fathom. We cannot understand these things by the intellect. So they are beyond this diagram. But eventually, God is known through the extension of its will. I'm saying not his or her will, but its will, because it's neither male or female, and at the same time, it's both in its expression. So God's will and that limitless light comes into a defined idea in existence by the highest circle here. And that's called Keter, or the crown. That's the crown of creation. And there everything starts with a concentration into a point. And that point is that everything that was, is, and shall be is present within that point. That's the one. From that point, if nothing would happen, no unfoldment out of that concentrated point or will, then still there would not be anything but the absolute one. So something has to happen. And it is said in this tradition that God wishes to behold God, or God wishes to know itself. So then it needs a mirror. And that's why this is the whole idea behind creation, the divine idea. It expresses itself through becoming in time and space.
So like this unfolding, no, it's like expanding itself
Yes.
from the more subtle levels where there is no matter still.
No,
it's just
definitely
pure
not.
energy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and even not that. If we talk about the absolute, you cannot talk about energy. This is beyond existence. There's nothing that you can imagine nor experience. Again, these are abstractions that every mystical tradition has, and it is meant for the practitioner that you have to go beyond the normal reasoning, the normal deductive mind, the normal human experiences. So
Yeah.
what happens is that point, that concentration, that oneness, there's no time and space, has to unfold in a manner that duality comes into play. So that means that the lightning flash unfolds the will into two partners, which is, like you just said, energy, and the other one is form. So there's the one, there's the two, and there's the three. And here we have the creative partners, or the cosmic partners of existence, because everything is built upon a primal energy, or an active male or masculine partner, and a passive formative structural partner, which is the creative or cosmic mother. So there's the one undefined will, and here's the expression, the first expression of will in two complementary partners.
Okay.
So this is the beginning of the lightning flash, and the rest, the descent of that will, goes in the same order. So again, you have two opposite partners and one thing that complements it. Two opposite partners and one thing that complements it. And then eventually down here, there is, let me see if you can see it a bit better. There is the final Malkut.
Yeah, okay, the last sphere, Malkut.
Exactly, that's Malkut. And there everything that came down or comes down through the will of the divine comes into this manifestation, this physical material world. And the descent of will or lightning flash goes through several layers or worlds or realities. So from a divine world into a creative world, into a psychological world, or formative world, sometimes they say, and then in the world of action. That's this. That's what we are living in at the moment, mainly. So the lightning flash basically comes down is an ongoing activity of the divine will, where through reality and an existence comes into being.
Okay.
So you could say, well, in a sense, these are the creation myths of the world, like Genesis, the Bible, or the Torah. This is the equivalent of that.
Okay, so it's this unfold, but it is a process as well. It's not like,
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah, because now that I think about it, in the Bible, they say no that it took God 7 days to create the world.
Yeah.
So it's by stages. So
It is. Yeah.
it makes sense, obviously, because if you don't have a vessel to receive all of creation, then how can you create? So it makes sense, no, that it has to be a process and it has to have steps, and one is preceding the other, but also it's like it's building upon one upon the other. Like you need the previous step so that you can move on to the next. If not, then everything would collapse, or it would just not even manifest, right?
Exactly. And the, let's say, mystical paradox in this all, in this metaphysical idea, is that the beingness of God is always there. So although God becomes through time and space, through opposites, and becomes into this world of all these phenomena and these different things, at the same time, the beingness of God is still present. So God is not outside of the whole equation, you see, or God is not dividing itself into certain fragments to become known. And that's a mystical paradox. So the one of the highest sephira, that circle there, up there, the oneness remains within every subsequent expression of
Yes,
life.
of course.
And that's why this existence is still one thing, although we may not experience that all the time, but the oneness is ever present in every, like you just said, unfolding moment. It is there. So the Genesis story, like this, like you says, it's a process. It's not something that happened long time ago, or maybe will happen one day, but it is an ongoing thing. Still at
This
this
is
very moment.
interesting. Yeah, this is interesting what you're saying. It's still an ongoing process, because if we try to, speaking about this word mirror, if we try to
Yeah.
mirror the 7 days of creation with the tree of life, there would be 3 days missing, right? If we would say like, okay, day one is sphere one, and
Yeah.
a few days ago, because I'm also listening to other authors, and I
Yeah.
told you about this. There are very good Kabbalists who speak only Spanish. I think it's sad. Like we should find a way for everybody to speak like the same language so that we can
Yeah.
connect. And I'm very blessed to speak both English and Spanish, because then I have different points of view about Kabbalah. But obviously,
Yeah.
we're talking about the same phenomenon. This is Goslan from Spain,
Yeah.
a Kabbalist and a teacher, and he was saying, and I didn't finish watching the video, but I have to go back to it now that we're having this conversation.
Sure.
But he
Yeah.
was saying the reason why it's not exactly mirrored, because he said, okay, creation took place in 7 days, not in 10 days. So what does this mean? That creation is still ongoing. There's part of the mystery that is still unfolding. It's not complete yet. So now what you're saying, of course, that makes sense, no? And
Yeah.
something also that Goslan mentioned, and I want to throw it out there because it's very much related to the topic, to the Tzimtzun. He said that part of the mystery can only be known by coming to Malkut.
Yes.
Part of the mystery can only, like, he was actually talking about the tzadeki, or the wise ones, no, or these righteous men, and because they're like, okay, we don't want to incarnate, no, like we will stay up here and let's look at creation from a very comfortable position. But then it's like God said, okay, if you don't come, then there's part of the mystery that you're missing. You have to go down, incarnate, and take a body so that you will know about the rest of creation, because it's still unfolding. So what you're
Yeah.
saying right now, wow, it makes a lot of sense.
Very much. And you know, if you or one of the listeners is reading different sources in Kabbalah, you will find different ideas about the 7 days of creation anyway, and how to see them on the tree. So, for example, some say that the first three, so the one and then the two cosmic partners, or the universal father and mother, are not within the scheme of the whole unfoldment of 7 days of creation. So the first three are abstractions prior to creation. And then you get the unfoldment of the 7 lower Sephirot into the 7 days of creation. That's another idea, but it's not the only idea. So the Toledano tradition says it different again, and works much more through the triads and going through the middle pillar, because it's a dissension of consciousness. And the middle pillar is all about consciousness, but always in triads, because as you can see in the lightning flash that we're talking about, the unfoldment of consciousness has to come in relationships to each other. Otherwise, there is no unfoldment of time and space in the following worlds that come from that divine origin, you see. So, but again, the ideas of the days of creation are always the same. And of course, their poetic way of describing them is very known in the Genesis story.
Yeah, it's true. It's like we're looking at the same mythology from different perspectives, no? Which I think it's good, because then you can have a more holistic vision of reality.
Very much, yeah. Well, as long as the Kabbalist knows its metaphysics, he or she can interpret these things in a metaphysical and symbolic way, and be as accurate as we can be.
Definitely.
But again, there's no one truth in those kind of interpretations, but we can try to come as close to what this all means.
Yeah. In a way, I think that what I am taking from the version from Goslan is that creation is still unfolding, and there are things that we can only experience when we come to the lower worlds, that we cannot know if we were just experiencing a life or creation from the higher realms. So I think that is very valuable in a way. We are very, even though it's so hard not to be incarnate with all the problems that entails, at the same time, it's like we are very blessed to have this opportunity to take a body and to be participating of creation with God. But for that, we need this consciousness. If we don't know about the Tzimtzun, then we don't know what is God's will and what is my place within creation, right?
No, definitely, yeah. Because knowing the Tzimtzun and the meaning of the 10 Sephirot there, that's a way of trying to understand what the principles of the divine are, and the 10 expressions of the will of God. And there we may arrive at maybe some understanding about the quantum physics idea behind the Tzimtzum. Because the Tzimtzum in the 4 worlds of Kabbalah is the highest and primal world of Atzilut. That's where the Tzimtzum comes through. And then, of course, it also runs through all the other worlds following, but primarily it goes through the divine world. And that's the eternal world of eternal, timeless potentiality, divine potentiality. So the divine has laid itself out, so to speak, in 10 ideas and principles, but they have not come to pass yet. They are still held within the unity, the timelessness, and the eternal will of the Absolute. But everything now is, as it were, molded into a plan, into a scheme, which is the highest tree the highest world on the tree of life, or Jacob's ladder, that other one, that extended tree of life that we know in the Toledano tradition. Now, so that is how I talk about in the books about the quantum field, which is such an abstraction. But that's the field of endless possibility and timelessness, of non-locality, and as David Bohm calls it, the implicate order. So from that world, everything is held within an embrace of endless probabilities. And so the Tzimtzun seems to implicate that there is a movement and a process, but behind the process is a movement in this world that we know so well, is the world of action. That's why I move and have these gestures here, and we can talk. But behind it still is that eternal world of divinity, or Atzilut. So at this very moment, as we are talking, and whoever is listening to us, still every passing moment is eternal, and therefore is non-local and full of potentiality and probabilities. And that's the mystery behind this manifested world already. You see?
Yes, and I think because we had a conversation related to what you're saying right now, a couple of days ago, when I was telling about the quantum field of possibilities, and my idea, or my perception, was that maybe that was in Ain, like where there is nothing, but then you said no, because when there is nothing, there is really nothing, no? But there is a step further, like one step afterwards, where there is nothing and everything together. So there has to be, it's not, you have to take one step further so that the quantum field exists. It cannot be a part of creation until there is again. And this is that there is a paradox, no? You need a vessel to receive creation. And the quantum field is a vessel that is also not a vessel, no? You have the duality again, no? The duality there. So for our little human minds, it's very hard to grasp this, because we are so low down into manifestation, into the 3D world, that we don't have like what it takes. We don't have the cable, or the cables, or the hardware, no, to understand what's going on in other realms. But we try to approximate it, and so I mean, it makes me have kind of have a headache, because it's like, whoa, that's too much information.
What happened to most quantum physicists? Even the greatest minds said, if you understand it, you haven't understood it, and it is completely outside our normal intellect. Exactly. But on the other hand, you said it's so difficult, but simultaneously we are coming from that world or that domain, and we are still in it. So on the simple tree, the highest Sephira of Keter is Atzilut on the simple tree. So that you can say that is the quantum field. But it is one, undivided, eternal, and therefore timeless, full potentiality. And here comes the paradox, as you said, at the same time, it is energy and particle. It is wave and particle at the same time. Now the wave, Hokmah on the tree, that's the field of endless possibilities. While Bina, the mother, is the particle. That is the, it's a bit of a strange word or name, but the particle is the collapse of the probability.
Exactly.
So when something has definitely materialized or comes in the explicate order, it becomes explicate out of the implicate. Now, again, the paradox is you and I are sitting here, and all the listeners, and we have this physical body. So that seems to be a definite particle. We have collapsed into this body. It doesn't mean that the field the wave field is gone.
No,
So
it's still there.
exactly, in the manifestation, there's still this field of probabilities. So the
Yeah.
potential for a change or transformation of whatever kind is still there. And so that's the beginning of the Tzimtzun in Kabbalah with quantum physics.
This is very interesting. Yeah, because I shared a picture on Facebook. I don't know if it was yesterday or a couple of days ago. Well,
Yeah.
it's a series of pictures, no? And there's these two little birds that are creating their nest with mud, but it's a very complicated kind of nest, and you can see every step how they were building it. And I was just looking at it, and I was like, how do the birds know how to do this?
Yeah.
No, they didn't go to school. Like, okay, let's go to school to see how they're gonna teach us how to build our own home.
Yeah.
So you wonder, no?
Yeah, very
Where
much.
does that knowledge come from? And that, for me, that is the perfect example of what you're talking about, that we are still connected to this intelligence. Just that the problem is human beings were disconnected from it. We have forgotten about it. We don't know how to tap into it. But nature, like these birds, they are so aligned to the will of God or the will of creation that that intelligence passes through them, and they know what to do because they are connected to that intelligence. And I think that's the Tzimtzun in action. I don't know what you think.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, and even that process is still unfolding. So we have as an existence as a whole, but on every level, whether it be mineral, vegetable, animal, human, angelic, this is a composition of memory unfolding out of that continuous interplay between energy and so wave and particle. And this is still ongoing. So birds may have a memory about building a nest, for example, or other things, finding food, like we do at the same time. And there's also the potential of learning more and memorizing more.
Yeah, like evolving, no, expanding on the knowledge.
Very much. And that's an important thing within the whole quantum physics idea, is how do you come to a certain quantum leap? So how do you come from a change in the established particle world into a new mode of changing the wave so that a new particle may arise out of it? Now, this is very, on the one hand, maybe difficult, on the other hand, maybe easy to understand. What they say in quantum physics is the normal linear way of thinking and function has to be broken.
Yes.
You know, if we are still in the time frame of conditioned functioning and mind and activity, there will not be a quantum change, not easily at least. So there has to be a leap in consciousness in our normal way of thinking and behaving within a relative time.
Yeah, and I think that that leap, because we've had this discussion other times as well.
Yeah.
This leap comes through a crisis sometimes. So you're forced to move from the known into the unknown, and then you have to find a way to if there is a problem, how am I going to solve it? And then comes the creativity, and then you learn something new. And I'm just remembering now about the morphogenetic. What is the name? It's by Rupert Sheldrake. You know, he says about
fields. Yeah,
exactly the fields, the morphogenetic fields. How you have to reach a certain point. I don't know what the word is. Even in Spanish, I can't remember right now. It will come to me, but you have to get, like, for example, he was talking about these monkeys, no, in some islands somewhere, remote islands. And so one of the monkeys was taught how to clean their fruit with water, and then other monkeys started learning from this one monkey, and then researchers noticed that other monkeys in islands that were around but not in the same island, started doing that as well, no? So
Yeah.
they reached this peak number of participants within the group consciousness, no, of the
Mhm.
monkeys. And
Yes.
once the right number of monkeys learned how to do it, that expanded to the whole species, no?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That's the way of
It kind
learning.
of makes me think about it, no?
Yeah, it's that, but it's very important that you mention it because that's not per se a quantum leap. That is, like you said, in the morphogenetic idea, is that we
Mhm.
make all part of a collective field of deeper unconscious learning. We have the same as a humanity.
Mhm.
We don't have to learn how to drink or swallow or all these kind of reflexes and impulses that we have as a baby already. And it's the same with animals. And we can learn through imitation, and animals can
Mhm.
do that at the same time.
Yeah.
It's not per se a quantum transformation or collapse, because still within that learning that you just mentioned, there's a continuity in it and not a discontinuous
Also that,
moment,
so
fracture in
what
time.
I'm sorry, so what, let me see if I'm understanding. So what you're
Yeah,
saying is the phenomenon is similar, but
yeah.
the difference is that in the quantum reference, it just happens without a continuity or without an effort. Is that, am I understanding right?
Yes, without an effort, or like you rightly said before, the monkey business is that you said it may happen through a crisis. Now, the crisis itself doesn't detonate a possible quantum jump, but the change in consciousness does, because consciousness is the agent of the potential for the quantum leap. So a different perspective, not literally through the eyes,
Yeah.
but a change in the consciousness, the beholding of the world and of your reality. And that may happen through a crisis. It
Uh-huh.
doesn't have to be that way, of course. I mean,
Uh-huh.
spiritual traditions, they also work towards uh, these revelations of consciousness without having to go through a crisis. Through
So can you give
meditation
us,
practice.
yeah, sorry, can you give us examples of that? Because now I'm like, okay, now I'm curious to see if I'm understanding, because I think it's interesting. Again, talking about the tree
Yeah.
and how one sphere comes after the other. I think that in
Mhm.
principle we're talking about the same kind of thing happening, but at
Yeah.
different levels. It's not exactly the same. No,
Mhm.
so I don't know if you could give us an example of this quantum leap.
Yeah, well, we started off with talking about the Kabbalistic concept of God, Ein Sof, Our, the
Uh-huh.
absolute. You cannot intellectualize that. It's difficult or even impossible. On the
Mhm.
other hand, God can be known through you and through the mirror of existence. So by metaphor and analogy and symbol, you can learn what that means really without thinking about it. So through meditation, Kabbalistic meditations, you can gradually come through an insight about what that really means. This is
Okay.
difficult to explain because it's very intimate and very authentic to every person. But you may have an experience of what it means to be nothing or no thing. This is possible.
Okay.
Um, and that breakthrough, if that happens, that is a possible uh, quantum jump, a quantum leap in your own consciousness. But in order to do that, you have to um, invite, as it were, your whole being, your mind, your thoughts, your feelings and memories to scratch the surface of the known and to gradually move through that surface, or better say, scratch it until you have a breakthrough, a revelation.
Okay.
And you never know when that is going to happen. It seems to be that we as human beings have no saying in it. We can will whatever we like, but these moments happen um, probably, as it's being said in Kabbalah, when grace allows it to happen and when you are ready to receive it. So you can work your way up the tree. That's the Kabbalistic work. But then we have to wait for what is being given to us. So if that quantum change really comes, yes or no, you never know, and you don't know when that's coming.
So these quantum leaps, they are personal.
They become personal experiences.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they are, in essence, they are very apersonal, but we may experience them as very emotional and breathtaking and awesome and all these kind of terms. But
Wow.
the quantum field is not per se an emotional thing itself, you see. It's creative. It belongs to the world of Bria
Uh-huh.
in its unfoldment. So you will not see an electron and a neutron, embracing each other because they have found found each other again after eons of or whatever it is. I'm just
Uh-huh.
saying. But our
Yeah.
personal experience may be extremely emotional. Yes.
Because obviously, because our consciousness is different to that of a neutron or an electron. That's
Exactly.
why we
And
experience it differently.
yeah, we do. Yeah, we are a composition of so many electrons and neutrons, and
Yeah.
that composition, well, that gives rise to that physical body that we have, and at the
Uh-huh.
same time also to the neurological network and the associated emotions and thoughts and memories, etc. And that makes it such a unique uh, being that we are.
Yeah.
Complex, very complex as well, because all the worlds, they come down, all the four worlds eventually into this human vessel, which carry within it all the four worlds, and this magnificent potentiality to be a creator within the whole creative act of the divine.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to really unlock that within us, that is quite still a mystery. We have some clues how to get there, but
Okay.
obviously, if we look at the human condition and the world at large, we have definitely creative potentiality in art and music and science and whatever, but still we are also very limited to what we can do, and especially with ourselves.
Yes, of course, because there are some laws in this universe or in this world that
Yeah,
we cannot escape, no, like gravity or
yes,
decay, the principle of I forgot the name. But everything that is we're coming into growth and decay and
yeah, yeah.
also electricity, that is even that has an impact on our bodies, no,
Oh yeah, of
electricity,
course.
magnetism, all
Yeah,
of this, and we have to abide by these laws because there is no way, at least while
yeah,
we are awake and while we are interacting in this 3D, no.
exactly. And again, the agent of true change or even transformation is
Mhm.
consciousness. And that's still maybe a bit abstract, but what we mean in Kabbalah and also in quantum physics is the silent witness or the observer within us. So not
Mhm.
just the daily ego consciousness,
Yeah.
because that has a different function. That's a level of consciousness that monitors my daily identity as a
Mhm.
person to
Mhm.
or in relationship to the world around me. So
Yeah.
that, like say, a horizontal interaction, that's
Yeah.
what the ego level is all about, and very necessarily so.
Yeah.
But the witness is more related to Tiferet. That's where you start to observe those processes, for example, and that has the potential, by observing only,
Mm.
by self-consciousness only, to
Mm.
make a change to happen.
Yeah, like you become aware.
You become aware, and through the awareness, and this is quite something, a change may occur. And this is quite opposite to what we normally experience as a human being, because
Mm.
we
Yeah.
have been taught that change happens if we act upon it. You know, that's the workable world, so to speak. You have to do
Yes.
something and then something comes out of it.
Yeah, that's the
Um,
Newtonian physics world. Uh-huh.
yeah, that's how they sometimes call it. Exactly. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Action
Uh,
reaction.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
So they say this change that happens through consciousness is a reflection of how from the highest divine will everything came into being, because
Mm.
that came from one point of observation.
Like
So
something shifts inside.
oh yeah, definitely, yeah, and it's
Uh-huh.
very subtle. So
Yes.
we have to become a bit silent there, and not too occupied with all the conditions around us in daily life. That's why
Mhm.
meditation can be so useful, is
Yeah.
that you start sitting with yourself and you start to discover who that is within you, that
Yeah.
observer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I may, Ida, at
Yes.
this very moment, there's a very simple exercise, is that if I am talking, I can
Hmm.
ask myself the question, who is talking at this very moment? And it is the presence within me that I may discover as an answer. And you may say, who is listening at the moment? Who is sitting at the chair? And if you're not paying attention too much to your body, primarily, or to your thoughts, then there is a presence. And it is simply there, and it is aware, like you just said. And
Yeah.
there comes the observer, slowly makes its, appearance, its entrance there. Yeah.
Yeah. This is very interesting because I don't know if we've talked about this before. Probably. I don't remember, but
Yeah.
um, a lot of people, especially people who are into spiritual topics,
Mm.
they think, oh no, the ego is bad. No, let's put it aside. But the truth is, the ego serves a purpose. The ego is this part of our psyche that is
Mhm.
helping us to survive in this harsh environment of the third dimension.
Yes.
So instead of denying the ego, what I've found in my experience or what I've been studying and learning is that when you make peace with your ego and you say, okay, yes, you are here, you
Mhm.
are important to my survival,
Yeah.
you recognize it instead of denying it, but you say, okay, I'm inviting you to come and be a part of my awareness, my
Mm.
spiritual awareness or my
Yes.
consciousness. And you give it a place. You say you can sit in the car. No, for example, you can come to the right, but you're staying in the back seat.
Yeah.
You can just look at it. Maybe you can tell us some jokes, but you're not driving the car. You're not choosing the music. You're
No.
just here along for the ride, no?
Yeah,
And then you
that's it.
start integrating the ego, and then you move into this silence, which is very hard. I'm
Mm.
still learning how to do it. I get little
Yeah.
glimpses of
Yeah.
that sometimes, not always, but sometimes. But if you start, as you say, meditating and you quiet that voice, then
Mm.
sometimes you will feel that presence, and you know that it's you, but it's not you. It's
Yeah.
like, and then when you start interacting with that presence, as
Mm.
you say, something shifts. You feel like, whoa, I don't know what this is. I don't know what's happening,
Yeah.
but something is moving, something is changing. And as you say, I think
I-
that's the connection with the Tiferet. Once you move beyond
Mm.
that ego and you say, okay, there's gotta be more in my life than this.
Mm.
Speaking of change, if you're only going to be waiting for change to come from the outside, then you're a victim of circumstances.
Mm.
Instead of saying, okay, how can I become a co-creator instead of just being a recipient of whatever life throws at me? Because when that happens, it's not fun and it hurts.
Well, it can be, exactly. I mean, but it can also be a comfortable way of living for some people,
Of
living
course.
from the conditioned level. And it is the art of the Kabbalistic path, is to have all these levels open in one's awareness. So you do not neglect or try to move away from your physical body, for example. And the
Exactly.
ego should be there as a good operative device of living in this world.
Mhm.
And Yesod on the tree where we find the psychological ego is not called for nothing in every world, the foundation. So this is the psychological foundation.
Yeah.
If people are in serious trouble from that level, then any advancement in spiritual work is more and more difficult. And that's why a lot of spiritual work starts with the foundation. You know, get that thing in order within you. And that's why you have the different levels of work, like the path of action and contemplation and devotion, those different modes of learning Kabbalah and learning about yourself. And those are all about the ego. And then if you have the ability to reach further, like you just said, exactly. But it is a way of transcending and including the levels. Then you become a real Kabbalist, because then you become whole. Then you integrate the whole tree eventually, which is really the idea of unity or unification in Kabbalah. It's not going back to the source and goodbye, everybody.
Would be nice, but that's not how it goes.
Well, you know, that's what they call the fourth way. It is eventually everything and everyone that return back to the Godhead. But in all tradition, the great teachers and the tzaddikim that you mentioned earlier on, they most of the time choose to go back out of compassion for the world. Like the bodhisattvas in Buddhism, and they say, no, I go back. I cannot accept enlightenment for myself.
When the others are still down there suffering.
Exactly, yeah. And that's why there are teachers in the world, and they can do whatever they can from their own level of experience and knowledge. And that's the beauty of it. Yeah.
I think that something very important that you're mentioning now, and I learned that through you, and I'm so thankful for that, because as I mentioned before, when you go into a spiritual tradition or you're in the quest for answers, like what am I doing here? What is my purpose? No, there's got to be more to life than this. And lots of spiritual traditions say, no, disconnect from the body. Especially, I was raised a Catholic, and of course, the best way to control people is through sin, no, and fear of God and fear of whatever.
Yeah.
So you're always afraid, and you're like, oh my God, like instead of living a spirituality, and they say no, you can't connect with your body, you can't have pleasure, don't eat, don't drink, don't have sex, don't do anything, no, and it's my fault, it's my fault, it's my fault, and no, and so they say, forget about the body. And you say, no, the body is bad. No, that is a thing of the devil. But then you have taught me, and that has brought me a lot of peace. And that's what I love about Kabbalah. Because Kabbalah says, no, you have to, like, your body is a mirror of that tree. Your body is part of, God created you with your body. Your body is not bad. Whatever you're feeling through your body is not bad. And you have this duality, the two pillars. You have both the light and the darkness, the good and the bad. So if you get angry, if you get sad, if you're upset, if you have cravings for something, that's not a bad thing. It's part of creation. Like, it exists there for a reason. It's not your enemy. It can be your ally. And to me, that brought a lot of peace to me, because you're always rejecting, like, no, reject the bad, no, or you're judging even more, no, that happens, that you're like, my neighbor, he's doing this or she's doing that, and oh, but I'm also doing it, and everybody's sinning, and this is horrible, and instead of taking the time to connect with that inner presence, we're always outside judging others, and that takes away a lot of energy, or we're solving problems. And when you use all of your energy to solve problems, then you don't have time for the divine, or to connect with reality. Actual reality.
That's a problem. I sometimes say in general in spiritual traditions or in religion, is that we have too much time to be occupied with our little troubles, and we have too much we're too occupied with our little egos. But on the other hand, like I just said, work needs to be done there. We have to realize what that little ego is about, and to identify it and to unmask it before we can really work on it. But like you said rightly, this is the the restrictive side of the tree, and that's the expansive or opening up side of the tree. So this is saying no to life. But that is completely opposite to that pillar, which is saying yes to life. You know, so these are, so to speak, these are the desires that you may have, and these are the resistances that you have. And every religion has a certain emphasis. But if you put too much emphasis on one of the two pillars, then metaphysically, you're out of balance. You know, as a philosophy, as a group, or as a person. So if I would only punish myself and say, this is not right, I'm not good, I'm not worthy, I would be out of balance per definition. So we have to learn to deal with our resistances and our desires in a way, like Buddhism as well, and Kabbalah does the same thing. And to say, they will always be there, they will not go away, but how can I detach from them in a way that they are still part of my life, but they are not the main impulses where through I am functioning in the world.
Exactly.
And that's it. That's saying yes to life with all its trouble, with all its, temptations and what have you. And that's for me really what this diagram as well is showing us.
Yes, for me it's acceptance that there is this duality. We're not escaping it as long as we are incarnate, and it's okay, no, and it's good because God created it and it's there for a reason. And to me, that's bringing a lot of peace, because the moment that I started realizing that and working with that idea that I don't have to deny the darkness, or I don't have to deny the bad parts. It's just, it is what it is.
Very much.
The world is what it is. Like, you can try to fight reality, but reality is always gonna win. So what's the point of trying to fight what is? No, it's not fighting it. It's like becoming a co-creator to change what you can, but as you say, without attachment to a result, a desired result. It's like, I can say, I desire this. For example, I desire a new job that will pay me well, and then the job comes, but maybe it doesn't pay exactly what I wanted, but it's something, or I don't know. I mean, this is an example, no? It could be like anything else. It's just like going with the flow, like accepting what is. And if you don't like something, try to change it, but at the same time, don't be attached to whatever you have in your mind. Because sometimes, I don't know if this has happened to you, but I've seen it on other people and myself, that you say, I want this, like this, no? And then you close the doors of the universe for other better things to come even. So I think it's important when we are in this co-creating space, saying, okay, there is these two pillars. The best idea would be to come to the center, move to the center, and try to have a balance between them, or this dance that is going to, because as we've discussed also in our private sessions, sometimes you need to expand, and sometimes you have to contract, and you have to break, and it's okay. You can just have this dance, move throughout one and the other, but start fighting what is. Just come to the center, become a co-creator, allowed to come, and even say, God, I would like this to happen, or I would like to co-create this, or something better. And then just like throw it out there, just leave it to the universe, go do other things, and then life surprises you. I don't know if that has happened to you, but to me, I'm learning to do that, and it's very magical.
No, it does. And I think it's very human. And if you would use the Kabbalistic tree of life, then you will see that these kinds of approaches to God, to the creative world, to the quantum dimension, they come on different levels, in different periods in your life. And you may come one day or one phase in your life that you say, it really doesn't matter what I will. And then you give it up and you say, truly, how this all is willed, this is the way it should be. And it doesn't mean that our problems disappear or whatever it is, but
No.
there's a surrendering, a yielding unto what this is, this miracle, and how everything is perfectly orchestrated and
Yeah.
organized. It's like a beautiful symphony, although we may have personal problems and troubles or worldly problems at this very moment,
Oof, yes.
but creation is perfect as it is. We mess it up sometimes. It doesn't mean that creation is not in order. You see, that's what cosmos means in Greek. It means order. Everything is exactly as it should be, and
Yeah.
that's finding as a Kabbalist what the Tzimtzun means in reverse order is to refine what these laws are and to live in conformity with them.
Exactly.
And that may give an enormous sense of peace within every human soul to say, although my life is not perfect in a personal sense, but I know that this is good.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
because these are processes that are helping us perfect ourselves. Like
Hmm.
because I've had that. I'm still working on that. For me, it's a conflict. Like saying, but how can we be talking about everything is perfect as it is when I see so much chaos, as you said, no, or
Yeah.
death and suffering and pain and all of this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm beginning to understand that that is because we are in the process of becoming something better. We're growing, we are evolving, and part of that evolution entails, and we've talked
Yeah.
about this as well, it
Yeah.
entails pain, growth pains, no? So it entails
Mhm.
pain and suffering and sadness, and but at the same time, there is beauty in that, in the process.
Yeah.
So if we just learn how we can focus in that surrendering and appreciating the good and just accepting what
Mm.
we cannot change, and say,
Yeah.
okay, then God, thy will be done for real. I'm going to surrender. I'm going to
Mm.
stop my little ego from wanting to control the show
Yeah.
because, and that comes out of fear. And you start doing that little by little, and then you start feeling this shift in your life. And I think that's precisely that Tzimtzum is start that ray is beginning to come through you and bringing order. And it brings me back also to the tarot card of the Tower, when
Mm.
that ray, like, because you have your fake structures, no, your tower of delusion,
Very
your
much.
tower of whatever you think, no, oh, I'm the best, whatever, no, or I am amazing, and
Mm.
I don't know, whatever one may think at some point in their
Yeah.
lives will do that. And then the ray comes and no, that is incorrect. So
Mm.
you have to rebuild from another perspective. And so when we allow the ray to come down, even
Mm.
though it might destroy your illusions or whatever, or it may destroy your fake ideas, it gives the opportunity for rectification. And I think that's the beauty of the Tzimtzum, learning
Oh,
how
very
to
much. I
rectify.
mean, yeah, it seemed to may appear as a graceful movement through the universe and through your life, but if you resist it or you go against it, it may indeed collapse your life or
Yeah.
destroy your little ego building represented in that tower.
Uh-huh.
And mainly this happens when we put ourselves outside of the idea that we are not um, included in the unity. So we see ourselves separate or apart from. And
Yeah.
sooner or later, that little world will shatter. And it doesn't make us happy creatures anyway. It makes us
No.
the most happiest creature to know that we are included in and that the God is not separate. As a matter of fact, the Tzimtzum is there. I told this in the beginning to to create and manifest a mirror so that God can behold God in the mirror of existence. That's you.
Yeah.
Um, but often the most part of the spiritual work that we are doing is for our little selves. So again, and that's just the way it is. But eventually, after this growing, like you said, we have to mature, and then we may come to this idea, okay, this is what I want from the universe and from God all the time. But, how am I of service to the source where I came from? And then you start to ask the questions about how do I become a mirror for the Holy One?
And
And
how
then
may I serve its purpose as well?
yeah, that's included in that question. And then the Kabbalistic work becomes a little bit different, so to speak. But every phase is legitimate and has its value for every
Yes.
developing soul. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think so. I used to beat myself up very much because I was like, "Ah, how could I be so stupid, or how could I be so blind?" No? But
Mm,
then at the same time, when you're doing this Kabbalistic work, you understand I did the best I could with what I had. That was my
yeah,
level of awareness or consciousness at that point. I
exactly.
can't punish myself for that. I'm not that
No.
anymore. But thanks to that version of me,
Yeah.
I am where I am today. So here comes this gratitude, this gratefulness
Yeah.
to whatever mistakes we have done, and just know that we can do better. And
Yeah.
as you said, let that grace come through you and rectify you, help you rectify. And then you
Very
can
much.
mirror back something better, no?
Yeah. That's another, I think, very beautiful thing about the laws of the universe. We
Mm.
can think as human beings about rightful punishment of ourselves or someone else, but the law of consequence, that's the alternating movement of the Tzimtzun, it has already mapped and planned for us how life is for us. So our actions and reactions, our responses to life have consequences,
Of course.
nice or otherwise, good or bad. So everyone will have its share. We all reap the fruits of our own life, and some are very good and some are a bit sour, but this is the way of learning.
Yeah,
So, like you said so rightly a while ago about judging other people,
exactly.
um, judge yourself. It is said in the Bahir, judge yourself, otherwise you will be judged. So, if we all look inside and
Mhm.
start to look at the consequences of our own deeds,
Yeah.
just as a consequence of how our life unfolds, we don't have to punish ourselves. We start to see it as a beautiful learning ground
Yeah,
and leave all the others to it.
exactly.
We don't have to judge them or punish them. It will happen. We are being guided through that law, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah. You
yeah,
see?
definitely. I agree. I look at myself when I was younger and somebody would wrong me and I would want to revenge right away, no? But
Yeah.
then life is teaching me, life puts things in their place and puts people in their place. So I don't have to do anything. Like life will take care of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do I have to take care of? My own thoughts, my own processes, my own actions in the world. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That's all that I can really have a
Yeah.
control over at a certain extent. And
Yeah.
that's really the only task that I should be focusing on. What am I doing? Not what everybody else is doing. Like
No.
life will take care of it. No?
Yeah. But that's what we say in Kabbalah is a mature, spiritual, psychological, mature way of dealing with life itself.
Hmm.
You take your own responsibility, and through it you become a better person, so to speak, for your
Yeah,
environment. You become an example. Yeah.
definitely. Wow.
Mm.
Wow, Mike, thank you so much for today's round table meeting. I think
Mm.
we have a very good conversation that I also feel that will be very, very useful to a lot of people.
Mm.
So I don't know if there's anything else you would like to add before we officially
Well,
close.
maybe because again, what we have talked about hopefully is also quite hands-on, that people say, oh, I took some practical things that I may immediately apply in life, but maybe the beginning about quantum physics and the Tzimtzun is still abstract. So I may have a suggestion for people how to like start to have maybe some quantum changes in their own life is by simply changing little habits throughout the day.
Okay.
And we have no guarantees there, but to break up the continuity of daily life. It may be
Okay.
the order in how you do your things in the morning, like getting up, showering, you have breakfast, but change that around consciously and see what happens. And these are little minor ideas to see what happens if you change the conditionings.
Okay, that's
So that's
interesting.
hmm,
Yeah, because you can begin with little things, but that can have an impact. Like when you start putting all of these together, these little
yeah,
things, then something might happen. That's a good point.
exactly. And the other thing is about the observer, is
Uh-huh.
not to make an effort to see if you can find that within yourself, but just sit somewhere, not with your eyes closed, but with eyes open, or you walk even, if you can do that,
Uh-huh.
and simply be aware of your own presence. Simply be aware of your own presence. If you practiced it, you can do it also while I'm talking to you, and I am talking about it, and immediately, it's there. So it is very possible. So that is
Yeah,
another practice.
nice.
Just know where you are, and just pay attention to your presence, not your thoughts. They are like an epiphenomenon of your presence, but your presence is there. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Wow.
that's really it.
That's a
Yeah.
very good tip. I like it. Yeah, it's good practice. It sounds very simple. At the beginning, it might be a bit hard to just like, because we're so used to move around and you have to do something and just like, oh, no,
Hmm.
just like sit, stay, don't
Yeah.
move,
Mhm.
just feel it, no? So that's very
Exactly.
practical.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I want to remind everybody that you can get Mike's books on
Yes,
Amazon and Barnes and
of
Noble, or
course.
you can contact him directly. And you
Yeah.
can also find him on Facebook and Instagram as Circle of Avalon.
Yeah. The website, if you're interested, then have a look. And if you have questions, then my email address is there. So I'm very open and accessible. So if you want to know something about any
Yeah.
of these streams that I teach, Kabbalah or Roundtable, and the ASA, have a look and let me know about it, or questions about our discussion here.
Yes, you
So
can also
don't
send
hesitate.
send your questions to Mexxicamelot@gmail.com. I will write it down here because it's with a double X. And we're really looking forward to your comments and questions also. So I want to thank you, Mike, for this amazing session.
You
And
too.
so thank you, Synchronauts, and we'll talk very soon. We'll see each other next month. What we will talk about, I don't know yet. Be
We
prepared,
can't
but we will
postpone.
we will see what comes up. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mike. And
Thank
so
you,
we'll see
Ida,
each other
for
very soon.
everything.
Bye.
Bye.